Thanks for coming to the Knock Middle School Auditorium. My name is Richard Lodge. I'm the editor of the Daily News of Newburyport. In keeping with the policy of the Board of Health, everyone is asked to keep a mask on when they're in a school building. We appreciate that for your protection and the protection of everybody else. I want to thank the Newburyport School Department, and I want to thank Port Media for having a crew here, live streaming the event and also broadcasting it on cable. And of course, I want to thank all the candidates for stepping up to run for office this year. Our timekeeper tonight is Joe DeBaez, who's down in the front row. He's the host of Local Pulse Radio, which is based in the newsroom of the Daily News. It's on air live at 9 a.m. Saturday with shows available for download at any time from our website. That's the only plug I'll make tonight. This evening of candidates is in two parts. The first part features the school committee candidates, and we'll run until I'll ask questions until I leave enough time for them to make closing remarks, and we're going to finish that portion at about 10 of 8. And that'll give us all a break for a few minutes, and then the final hour we're going to have the two candidates for mayor up here. The questions are an amalgam of things submitted and suggested by readers and residents of Newburyport, some things hatched in our newsroom, and we put them all in a bin and we shake them up and we come up here with a list. So that's what we're going to do tonight. I will ask questions, and each candidate will get 90 seconds to answer each question. And we're going to do it alphabetically because with 6 people, that's something I can keep track of. And at the end, again, alphabetically, they each get 2 minutes for closing remarks and to make their case to you folks, the voters. The candidates tonight are, to my near left, Daniel Blair. Next to him is school committee incumbent, I'm sorry, yep, I got him mixed up. His school committee incumbent, Brian Callahan. And next to him is incumbent Stephen Cole, and then Sarah Hall, Laura Viola Macaron, and Juliet Walker. And as I think most people know, when the votes are counted on November 2nd, 3 of these folks will be sitting in or will be on the school committee because there are 3 seats to be filled. So the first question, again, each person gets 90 seconds to answer. Joe will hold up his sign that says 30 seconds left, and then he'll hold up one that says stop. We're not going to cut off your microphone. So, the first question is about COVID, which really shouldn't be a surprise. The state has extended the school mask mandate through November 1st. Newburyport vaccination rates are 88% in the 16 to 19-year-old category, but just at 68% in the 12 to 15 age bracket. If the governor does not extend the mandate, are you ready to risk COVID spikes and drop the mask mandate a mere 9 days from now? And do you think the decision should be put on hold until the FDA makes a recommendation regarding vaccinations for elementary students ages 5 to 11? I know that's a long question, but Dan Blair?
Well, I think, masks are a good thing. Masks are keeping my child in school this week. She was deemed a close contact, and the test and stay program in the schools has allowed her to stay in school this week. So, I support the masks, but through my work, I've also had the opportunity to work with the United States Council on Athlete Health, and through I've been working with them since COVID kind of first came. It's the same group that's guided the Big Ten Conference and the Atlantic Coast Conference in their athletic return to play. And through the research that they've done, it's guided what I've been able to do at my job. And I think we could look at some additional research that, the COVID task force that the school has done some great work. but I think there may be some opportunities based on the folks that I've had the opportunity to work with, that in certain situations indoors that we could look at dropping the masks, but not at all times. I think there are some opportunities out there where we can drop the masks a little bit indoors, but at this time I don't think dropping them all the way is time until we can get more folks vaccinated, especially our youngest children. So, thank you.
Brian Callahan, same question?
Thank you. Yes, I definitely support masks for the kids. I'm on the medical team advisory meetings that meet every Wednesday. Part of the problem with the state's numbers is that they group kids in ages 16 to 19, but the high school, which with a combined vaccination rate for students and teachers is actually near 87%, is generally not to 19-year-olds. Most of the kids graduate by 18, and they start at 15. So the state groups it into a slightly different age range than actually exists in the high school. That being said, I also don't believe that the state is going to stick with that November 1st number. I wouldn't be surprised if they move it to January. And I honestly don't think it's up to the school committee to make that call about masks. It is a public health decision. I believe that Commissioner Riley is not leading in that way, and he should not leave it up to us. The state should make the call based on very local numbers. He shouldn't be lumping us in with all of Essex County. It should be our local regional numbers and transmission rates that decide that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Stephen Cole.
Thank you. I believe that masks are a safe compromise, and for those student groups that are below that 80% threshold, if you will, I would hope that the city health department or the city of Newburyport does their best to sponsor some vaccination clinics. Public health is really important here. It's good that our vaccination numbers are up, but I don't think we should proceed. We need to proceed cautiously, and I would default to our medical advisory team's recommendations regarding this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Question goes to Sarah Hall.
I believe our medical advisory team has been doing an exemplary job keeping our kids safe. They actually had a mask mandate for our city before the state put it in place, knowing that it was the right thing to do. And I wouldn't be at all surprised, as Mr. Callahan said, if the state moves it from November 1st to a later date. This kind of reminds me of what happened in spring of 2020 with the closures. How first it was 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and then 2 months. And I think that we need to get to a place where we have vaccinations available for ages 5 through 12. We're so close. And if we can just hang on the additional weeks so that we can get those kids vaccinated, then we can have a consistent policy for K through 12. I think it's going to be very difficult if we try to break things up. A consistent policy makes sense for the district for K through 12. Thank you.
Thank you. And at any time I can repeat the question, especially something like that was pretty long. But Laura Viola Macaron.
I am pro-masks. I think they are doing an exceptional job. The medical team that has been put together and has been advising on what to do has been exceptional, and they have strongly recommended masks. There is data that shows that they are working, and I would rely on the science and the numbers to make the decision of whether or not we should not have masks. But at this point, I think masks are very much needed.
And Juliet Walker.
Thank you. I do support the way our school administration and city leadership has responded to the COVID pandemic. They have sought input from public health experts They still have the task force, and I think that's an important body to refer to in these situations. They have responded and adapted to the evolving guidelines provided at the state and federal level. And I support continuing to require masks in the schools until such a time as our public health experts at the local level advise otherwise. And I also would support continuing to encourage and educate about the importance of vaccinating community-wide.
So the second question, each question I'm going to start one person farther down the line here. Brian Callahan, the question starts with you. COVID has caused a higher staff turnover among faculty and administration. Is the school committee prepared to deal with potential staff shortages and maybe sudden vacancies that come up because of the pandemic?
I'm actually unaware of any high rate of staff turnover other than with the superintendent hiring new central office staff and new team leaders. As everybody may not know, we don't have anything to do with staff. The school committee is forbidden by law from dealing with staff in any way. But I will support Superintendent Gallagher in any way that he needs to bring on anybody he feels he needs. But at the moment, I don't believe there's any shortage of staff in the schools.
Same question for you, 90 seconds.
Okay. When COVID was spiking and we would get reports and parents would get reports about students being quarantined and subsequently teachers being quarantined, that does put a stress on having the teachers that you need in the classroom. So again, I think that serves as another reason for us to be cautious, if you will, to make sure that masks are being worn, make sure that we can do all we can to get students vaccinated at all ages. And again, someone mentioned about the FDA approving vaccinations for younger children. And I think that's really important. But I know that if you had a rash of students and teachers with COVID, it would put a strain on the teaching staff, and we'd be scrambling to fill, the classrooms with the instructors that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Sarah Hall.
I've heard about teacher staff shortages in other communities, real issues where they had to go remote because they didn't have the staffing. And I'm so grateful that that has not happened here, and I don't anticipate it happening. I believe our teacher vaccination rate is something phenomenal, like 96%. And I also appreciated the way teachers were involved in the reopening plans in the summer of 2020. Keeping the teachers' needs and opinions in mind is important as we make these plans so that they continue to be a part of the process.
Thank you. Same question, 90 seconds, Laura Viola Macaron.
If we are faced with a teacher and staff shortage, I would support the superintendent to the best of the school committee's abilities in however we needed to. Not too sure what that would really look like, but I know that it would be the superintendent's job to fulfill those positions, and I know that if elected, the school committee, we would work with him and provide any support that he needed.
Thank you. Juliet Walker.
Thank you. As many of you know, I have indicated what my priorities would be once and if elected to school committee, and one of that has been to advocate for safe, healthy, and supportive schools. And that applies not just to our student body, but also to our teachers and our administrators. So I would hope that we would try to avoid staff shortages at all costs. Certainly we can work with the superintendent and make sure that we replace needed staff. But the more important thing we need to do is to avoid people leaving because they don't feel safe, they don't feel supported, or for other reasons. So I would say that my priority in response to that question would really be continuing to work to make sure we're providing safe, healthy, and supportive schools to the best of our ability.
Thank you. The next question starts with Stephen Cole. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even follow my own pattern. I'm sorry. Dan Blair.
I hadn't heard of a staff shortages in the schools. I had heard some staff turnover. Some teachers had left just prior to the school year. But again, not deemed a shortage. And, I fully support the superintendent and the school administrators and what they felt they needed to do to fill those gaps should there be an urgency or a shortage. And at the same time, there's a lot of young, up-and-coming educators out there that I think, the school could turn to. And I know they've hired a lot of young, very good teachers that I've seen in the schools recently in the last year or two. And I think there's more of those folks out there, should the schools need to turn to those folks. But I hadn't heard of a shortage, did hear of some turnover prior to the start of the school year.
Okay, thank you. Again, I apologize for that. So again, the next question, we start with Stephen Cole. Some school committees have been overtaken by angry parents protesting COVID-related policies, including in a neighboring community to Newburyport. How would you tamp down emotions and address over-the-top reactions at meetings here in Newburyport if that happened? You have 90 seconds.
Sure. Well, I think that having presided over meetings
I think you need to bring it
I'm
closer.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Sure. Having presided over meetings in the past, and I'll give you an example. Back in 2007, when we were talking about closing the Kelly School, we had a large meeting in the high school cafeteria. I think there was in excess of 160 people there. And I had conferred with the superintendent about ways to make sure we managed the meeting well. So I think there are things that a school committee and leadership can do in conjunction with the community, to manage those meetings. But I also think that we have to, I guess, create an opportunity for opinions to be expressed, provided that they do them within our guidelines, so that voices can be heard, that there's a balance of pro and con. But beyond that, there are things that a school committee, in collaboration with local, even law enforcement, can do to quell any type of issues.
Thank you. The same question, 90 seconds, Sarah Hall.
First off, Richard, I assume you meant to say neighboring community of Amesbury. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. I did read about that in your paper. And I was grateful that we weren't dealing with that here. One thing I can say, since I attend the meetings regularly, the school committee meetings, is that there are procedures for public comment, and the vice chair reads out a statement letting people know what is appropriate and what is acceptable. And I think that's a proactive way of ensuring that people are commenting appropriately, not crossing a line, and not threatening anyone.
Thank you. Same question to Laura Macaron.
I can see this, and I can see, where parents are coming from, and we've seen this not just in our community, but clearly across the country. And these are unprecedented times, and I know that we're all navigating, and so many people are coming from a place of unknown or fear, and I want to make sure that as a committee member, I am listening to the community, and I am listening with an open mind, and I want to make sure that people are feeling that they're being heard.
Thank you. Question to Juliet Walker.
Thank you. I would agree that often the incivility, if that's a word, is a result largely of people feeling like they're not being heard. And in my career as a community planner, I've had many situations where I've had to navigate challenging issues. And I would say that the best way to navigate those challenging issues without people feeling angry or expressing contempt towards individuals in power or perceived power is to make sure that they have an avenue through which they can be heard, and that there are rules in place that they should be following. And that protects both sides. I have said that I will be a leader by example. I think that's really important. Any leader in the community needs to lead by example. And I also would like to foster an environment of collaboration and accountability. And I think it's critical that communication is part of that. I think a lot of times people feel scared because they don't have information. And if we're going to try to have better civil discourse and more civility between leaders and the community at large, then we really need to work on communication.
Thank you. Same question to Dan Blair.
Yeah, I think that, transparency and communication are very important in this area and could, quell some potential opportunities for people to be upset and, cause disruption in meetings. And as some of the others had said, there is procedures in place for the meetings that should be followed, which do provide opportunities for people to speak up and express their concerns and their thoughts for the committee and the administrators to hear, and they can provide feedback on as well.
Thank you. Same question to Brian Callahan.
Thank you. As Ms. Hall stated, we do have the public comment kind of rules to set the stage, and that's great, and it's worked out for us. I don't recall in the past 4 years anything of significance of angry parents coming in and making a scene. I take at least 7 to 10 calls a week, every week, almost all of them about COVID protocols. When are we going to get rid of masks? What's the vaccination rate? And so on. And I have to say that the communication from the district has been tremendous. So I really want to credit Sean Gallagher and his team for being that transparent and open with the people in our community. And I think we're lucky to have a community that doesn't rise to the occasion of anger. And a lot of it has to do with the way the school district is there answering questions. Even if the people don't like the answers, the communication is there for the parents to know about what is actually happening in our schools.
Thank you. Next question, we're going to shift up to MCAS for a minute. And we start with Sarah Hall. According to the MCAS data for 2021, 10th graders did pretty well, but just about half 7th and 8th grade students met or exceeded the standard in math and English. Does that reflect a year of remote or hybrid learning? And does it raise a flag? Should there be other measures in addition to the MCAS scores to assess student performance?
Sure. I don't think I would say a red flag, but it certainly is an indicator, and I would say not at all surprising after what the kids have been through with their learning being disrupted, months of being at home, and then last year being mainly hybrid. It's not surprising, and thankfully our district has its own measures. The thing about MCAS is you don't get the results until the fall from last year, so these children have moved on to new teachers, but during the year there's STAR 360 testing that goes on and individual assessments, so the teachers were aware of what was going on and did a commendable job under the circumstances. I don't think that MCAS is necessarily adding to their knowledge, or I wouldn't anticipate that teachers would be particularly surprised by those numbers.
Thank you. Same question to Laura Viola Macaron.
I know from personal experience that the MCAS, the results that we just saw in the past 2 weeks, the results were definitely different, and the results were lower than expected. And when asked a student, like, what do you think it was? And they were like, well, we didn't get to that portion yet. We weren't shown those, math equations yet. And I think that I think the MCAS are, they do what they do. But I definitely believe that the teachers, from what I've already seen in the schools, are already on top of it. They already know what's happening in the classroom. They can already start to see, they've been assessing from day one where the students are. And I strongly think that we should be listening and getting the data from the teachers and understanding what supports do they need to make sure that the students get to where they need to be for their education.
Thank you. Same question in 90 seconds to Juliet Walker.
Thank you. So I think we should just acknowledge that MCAS are only one metric in a toolbox of ways that we have to measure how we're doing vis-a-vis our students. And we have other tools in place that we use on an annual, more than annual basis in the classroom through surveying and other qualitative and quantitative data points to make sure that we are serving our students the best way we can. And our guide should be our strategic plan and the goals we have for the district as a whole. So if the MCAS results seem concerning, I think we need to take that data point in and look at the other results we're getting and evaluate how we're doing compared to our strategic plan goals and the goals of the district as a whole. But I would say that, and I've said this before, an immediate priority for me over the next few years will be focusing on correcting and recovering learning losses that we will have through different populations in our schools due to the COVID pandemic.
Thank you. Same question to Dan Blair.
I don't think the scores were too concerning based on the situation we were all in and all the students were in, the teachers with the remote learning. And, the test was never, curtailed or changed at all to potentially cut back to what the students may not have been able to learn or be taught by the teachers. It was the same test, and the teachers were teaching to the test, and due to some of that, they may not have been able to, as somebody had said, get to everything, and that certainly will play a role in the results that were the students' scores, and there are other measures in the schools that do allow to see really where the students are at, and it's not just that one test that shows how well our students and our teachers are actually doing.
Thank you. The same MCAS question to Brian Callahan.
Thank you. No, I don't think any of the staff or administration were surprised at all about the scores. I wasn't surprised when my sons showed up in the mail. Though no, I'm also not concerned. As everybody here has said, basically the schools have multiple metrics on learning for kids. While there probably is some learning loss due to everybody being remote for a whole year, I'm confident that we can surpass that, get over that, and bring the kids that need the help, that help to get back to where they should be. Personally, I'm not concerned at all about one off year of low numbers.
Well, thank you. And finally, the MCAS question to Stephen Cole.
Sure, thank you. MCAS is high-stakes testing, and I believe that performance at the grade level in Newburyport will be presented at our next school committee meeting. I also believe that it'll be important to look at the cohorts. I'm sorry, I'll start over for you. MCAS is high-stakes testing, and I believe that performance at the grade level in Newburyport will be presented at the next school committee meeting. I believe it will be important to look at cohorts and how they've progressed or regressed from grade to grade, and I expect that to be part of the presentation. But as other members of the panel have mentioned, there are multiple ways to assess student learning. There are ways to assess loss of learning, and I look forward to learning about more of those as we proceed into the school year and find out what we can do best to help our students have the best education possible.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Laura Viola Macaron. What do you think of the school district's top 1 or 2 priorities, and can you provide details?
Yes, I am a strong supporter of the strategic plan that was put in place for 2016 to 2021. And I know that the committee is currently working on what the next 5 years will look like. There are 7 main points that wanted to address, and I fully support every aspect of the strategic plan, and I would really love to help support that in any way possible.
Thank you. Same question. Top 1 or 2 priorities to Juliet Walker.
Thank you. In terms of our top priorities, I agree those should be reflected in our strategic plan, which we are in the process of updating as a district. And I believe at its core, the strategic plan should be focused on attaining a high level of student achievement for all students and providing a high-quality education to everybody. I also will reiterate that I believe this strategic plan will need to account for learning losses and overall impact on our schools and students from the COVID pandemic. I would like to see the plan that's currently under development identify some specific goals around our COVID recovery. I would also like to see strategies for restoring and building our foreign language, theater arts, and music programs, as well as the core academic subjects, as I believe those are critical to providing a high quality and excellent education.
Thank you. Same question to Dan Blair.
I think, again, the new strategic plan that's being worked on should have these priorities. And like others have said, I think the number 1 priority needs to be fixing and catching up on the learning loss that occurred through COVID. And there are a number of different measures and ways that can be accomplished. And taking advantage of the ESSER funds that are available to the schools are certainly can help and assist in that and moving it forward. And looking at making sure we have a rigorous curriculum for all of our students that meet the needs of all of them throughout the K through 12 program.
Thank you. Same question, Brian Callahan.
Thank you. The strategic plan is still in process, as everybody has said. There have been several stakeholder groups who have been at meetings with the superintendent and his leadership team going over the 7 points. One thing that was brought up in the version of the meeting I was at was that one of the goals is to have every student graduate with an associate's degree by taking the dual enrollment, which would be amazing to have the senior class all graduate with an associate's and their high school diploma. In addition to that, there will be all the learning loss to recover from. So I would say that make sure all the kids are back up to speed that need to be, and really work towards that goal of having every high school senior graduate with an associate's degree and their diploma.
Thank you. Same question, top 1 or 2 priorities to Stephen Cole.
Sure. I agree with a number of the panelists that learning loss is an important priority. I see it as a standing priority. I think it's something that has to be on everybody's radar practically every day. But I also want to see us succeed at a couple of objectives that may be priorities. One would be free full-day kindergarten. Studies have shown that full-day kindergarten and early childhood ed, effective early childhood ed, really helps families, helps the economy, helps your community. I also believe that, and again, we've kind of got a plan in place, so this is something that I think we're going to get done. And also with respect to our high school here, new science labs, where we basically need more lab space to accommodate STEM learning, interests of students in science. And that's another thing that we've kind of got on the board. We've filed some initial documents with the MSBA, and again, I would like to advance towards some of those and succeed at providing them.
Thank you. Same question on top 1 or 2 priorities to Sarah Hall.
Thank you. Yes, top two priorities. I would agree with everyone that recovery from learning loss needs to be an ongoing top priority. I also support free full-day kindergarten. This is something that our community needs to get behind. At this point, there's only 12% of communities in Massachusetts that do not provide free full-day kindergarten, and so we're not in good company, and this is something that we can do that's developmentally appropriate for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Juliet Walker. How can the school district reduce its environmental impact and foster best practices in this coastal city that in our students' lifetimes will experience storm surge and excessive flooding? Do you think there's enough of a high priority for the district on the environmental impact and fostering best practices?
Thank you. So again, I think this is a topic that we should have in our strategic plan. We need to recognize that the school is part of the larger community, and we need to lead by example, not only as leaders on the school committee, but as a school for our students. So I would say that we certainly should be looking at ways to incorporate into our curriculum, but also into our practices in day-to-day school activities and operations to reduce our overall footprint, to increase awareness about the potential impacts of climate change and storm surge. And I absolutely would support that being rolled into the strategic plan discussion. I would also encourage us to continue the strong relationships that we have with community organizations that are already starting this, have already started this dialogue and are well along in helping us as a community to think about what we want to do around climate change and the impacts of climate change.
Thank you. Same question to Dan Blair.
So I think, some of this to some extent is being done currently in the schools. I know at the Bresnahan, every kid in the class has a responsibility, and one of them is turning off the lights and making sure we're conserving the energy the best they can when they leave the classroom. But Newburyport offers so much more than that, and so many educational opportunities in this area for our students. Could be Plum Island and the storm surge, and the issues out there with houses potentially being washed away. Everything that Maudsley, the state park, provides to this community and the educational opportunities there, the Audubon Society, and so much that the city offers as well that could be passed on to educating the students. The composting program, the new smart water program that is now in place, and folks can see how much water and things like that, and those could be turned into educational programs for our students. So I think there is a lot of opportunity, and this could be part of the strategic plan and worked into the curriculum.
Thank you. Same question to Brian Callahan.
Great, thank you. The Bresnahan School, which is only a few years old at this point, actually has a passive HVAC system, which is amazing. As far as I know, it doesn't actually even use air conditioning. It's just airflow, but it actually keeps the building quite cool in the warmer months. So that's a great start for the school system. I would love to see the city move into an entire citywide composting, but before that can happen, I would love to have every one of our schools do a composting program. The amount of food waste is just amazing in cafeterias, as you may imagine, joking about school lunch here, but that is a great opportunity to teach the kids about environmental stewardship. I know that we also, this week, we're doing an adventure course in Beverly, and one of my colleagues was talking about how he went with Sarah Hall actually out to Plum Island with the kids. The place-based learning opportunities we have in this region are amazing. With the river right there, it's every opportunity to teach the kids how the environment works and how to protect it.
Thank you. Same environmental question to Stephen Cole.
I believe helping children and students in our school district learn about the city's coastal resiliency plan, we'll produce a greater knowledge and appreciation for our resources, such as the water resource. As Mrs. Callahan just mentioned, our school district's experiential learning program, our place-based education, is another way to track and reinforce valuing the environment, because I think it's really important for children and students to learn about their environment. We live close to a river. It's really important that children and students understand how that river works, the tides, the current. Growing up here in Newburyport, as a teenager, I actually lost 3 of my peers to drownings in the river. And when I see and hear about the efforts made in place-based ed to teach kids how to kayak and when to go in the river and when not to go in the river, programs like that save lives.
Thank you. Same environmental question to Sarah Hall.
I'm so happy that someone asked this question. It's a great question. I was very involved on this issue, especially before the pandemic. I was working with some amazing students in the E-Club at the high school to try to expand composting in the district, also to reduce plastic. And their efforts were just coming to fruition as things shut down. But we were able to get composting adopted in grades 4 through 8. So Mullen and Knock, it was already happening at the high school. And we worked with the science teachers so that kids in grades 6 through 8 got a lesson from a high school student on the importance of composting and how it works. We had everything set up in the cafeterias, and this was just a couple of weeks before the school shut down. But another thing that was going on behind the scenes is I was working with school committee member Bruce Menon on a plan to have a district-wide sustainability committee. We were very excited about this work, and I came to the school committee meeting where he presented the plan. The school committee was supportive, and we were going to get teachers, older students, perhaps some younger students and parents involved so that everyone could be on the same page with sustainability efforts, and that was the last meeting before the pandemic hit. So we're looking forward to getting back to that work.
Thank you. This pandemic has really done a number, hasn't it? Same question to Laura Viola Macaron.
I strongly support sustainability, and it would be amazing if it was incorporated as part of our strategic plan. Coming from San Francisco, where the city was, by the time before we moved to Newburyport, the city was so close to being zero waste, and it was phenomenal. So I think that I can see this already taking place in the classroom. The 7th graders are immersed in a science program where they are learning about the impacts that sustainability has on our community as well as globally. And I think that introducing a composting program within the schools is definitely needed, and I would strongly support that.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Dan Blair. Do you think there's a verified, evidence-based need for school resource officers in public schools here in Newburyport? And what role do you think a public resource officer plays in Newburyport? You have 90 seconds.
I think the school resource officer is a good position in the schools. They provide opportunity. They provide opportunity to be for the local police to be seen by the students in a different way than maybe they only see the officer when something bad happens out in the community. But it's good for them to build relationships with the community beyond what we see on the streets, and provides, I think, the administrators a contact within the city that they can be a first point of contact if there are concerns or issues in the schools, and they play a larger role in the community as well. So I think it's a good program and something I think the city should continue with.
Thank you. Same question. Do you think there's a verified evidence-based need for school resource officers? And what role do you think those officers play in Newburyport? Question to Brian Callahan.
I guess my question is also about the question, is the person asking if it's verified evidence-based, like did we have an incident that ended up in us having the school resource officer? I don't know, but I will agree with Dan, it's a great resource. I've met 2 of them so far, or the former one left at the beginning of last year, and we just had a new officer start. I think it teaches the kids that the police are here to help you, and they aren't only there when bad things happen. They're a great part of the community, and I just think it's a great program. I don't see any reason to not have them.
Okay, thank you. Same question to Stephen Cole.
Sure. I think, and Mr. Blair mentioned this, I think the key function of a police resource officer is to build relationships. I actually got a chance to get to know one of our former resource officers very well, and we used to talk about how he would work with students. And it was always about getting to know the student. It was always about keeping a little notebook on that student. Positive relationships with students are very important, and as well as students feeling safe. Sometimes students need to see that level of safety in terms of the presence of a police officer. Other times it has to be someone that they can reach out to and trust. And I think we've had a good experience with that in our school district, and I would look forward to that continuing, and I would certainly support it as much as I can as a school committee member.
Thank you. Same question to Sarah Hall.
Okay, as for the question, is there a verified evidence-based need for this? I don't know the answer to that. I do know that I've heard mixed responses from parents and high school students as to whether this is appropriate. I'm not sure that it's for me to say without more information. I can say that I've heard students from the high school saying that they don't feel comfortable and don't feel that it's appropriate for a school resource officer to be there. And so I guess if there are concerns about it in the community, I would want to make sure that the high school students' voices are heard on this issue. There's an active student council at NHS, and their representative should be a part of any conversations around concerns with having a school resource officer present at the school.
I just didn't know if you wanted to, what role does a school resource officer play? Sarah Hall? Just didn't know if you wanted to take that part of it too.
Oh, sure. So my understanding is that an officer is there as a presence and a representative from the community. If there are any concerns, I assume that it's more of a preventative, proactive approach to any problems in the district.
Okay, thank you. Same question to Laura Viola Macaron.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how I feel about it. I definitely would need more information. There are concerns on so many different sides, and it would be about how do the students feel about it. You know, there's so many communities where it's not a good thing to have a school resource officer in the schools. So I would definitely need more information to make a better decision or a better stance on it. But yeah, I'm honestly just not sure.
Okay, and the same question to Juliet Walker.
Thank you. So I'll reiterate that I believe the school committee needs to lead by example, set policy, be engaged, and stay abreast of what is happening in the schools and the community at large. And I believe that the question about the SRO is not specific to the individual or to the position per se. I think the question is about the larger issues around police presence in our community in general and the role that police play or have been asked to play in different situations. I participated in the discussions and dialogues around diversity, equity, and inclusion that happened this summer And I would say this is a topic that came up. And again, my experience with school resource officers is that they provide a positive mentor-type role in the schools, that they can be helpful to the students in specific situations. And I know there are success stories out there. But I think we have to be receptive to the concerns that are being expressed by the community about whether or not we want an SRO in our schools. And for that reason, I think we need to provide the appropriate venue to have a discussion about that and not assume just because it's been always done that way that we should continue to do it.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Brian Callahan. Newburyport, according to recent census data, Newburyport is a little over 94% white, 2.2% Asian, and about 1.7% Black or African American. How will you support teachers in the district to be sure students of color see themselves in the curriculum and in their textbooks? And how can the committee support teachers and administrators in their efforts to promote equitable and inclusive classrooms for all kids in Newburyport?
Thank you. Superintendent Gallagher, a few years ago, brought in a gentleman, Michael Eadman, African-American gentleman who, for easiest way to explain it, does diversity training. The school committee all had it. I thought it was excellent. I think that the teachers having PD days with him and his training is great for the district as a whole. In terms of the part of the question with people of color being represented in books, I'm all for it, and all for the superintendent and his team working with the state in terms of enriching that type of curriculum.
Okay, thank you. Same question to Stephen Cole.
Could I ask you to just repeat the question?
Sure, absolutely. Given the racial breakdown in Newburyport, how will you support teachers in the district to be sure students of color see themselves in the curriculum and in their textbooks? And how can the committee support teachers and administrators in their efforts to promote equitable and inclusive classrooms for all kids?
Great, thank you. I think it's really important that children and students learn about all cultures, all races, and I think, it's important that we respect, and I know this as the school administration does, as well as the school committee does, respect protected classes. And I think it's really important to find ways to have those of color properly represented in texts, in learning materials. Again, I think I've mentioned before something about balance. I just think that's really something you need to strive for. My experience as a student in Newburyport schools was that there was always an effort to provide some type of balance. I was fortunate enough coming through the elementary grades. I had a teacher by the name of Mrs. Helen Robinson, and she was an African-American woman, outstanding teacher. And a couple of years ago, as a representative of the High School Alumni Association, after her passing, I dedicated a scholarship to her. I just think that we can learn so much from each other, and I think it's important to expose or allow children and students to explore, different cultures, different races, different beliefs, and I think it just adds to having a wider vista, if you will, for these young people moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The same question to Sarah Hall, 90 seconds.
Well, right, this is certainly a challenge in a community, as you said, that's 94% white. And I think we're starting to make some good strides in this area with some leadership from our DEI Alliance in the community. We've also been working at the high school level and perhaps at I'm not positive, with the ADL, with the Anti-Defamation League. They've been doing trainings with students, creating student leaders, engaging in conversations, so there's a lot of positive work going on there. I also know that there's been more sensitivity around our choices of literature for students. My My older son, and I think all 8th graders, read To Kill a Mockingbird, and then my younger son, who just completed 8th grade, had a variety of other choices, and there was a whole discussion around that. I also was involved in the Just Mercy community read, which was a very positive experience, drawing in not just students from the high school, but people from the greater community to have a discussion around that book, which I definitely recommend. And in history, there's a broader approach to what we're learning about, including the celebration of Juneteenth, which I think is all moving in a positive direction.
Thank you. The same question to Laura Viola Macaron.
I think we need to do better. I think we can do better. There's unbelievable resources out there that are, for example, there's an Instagram account called The Conscious Kid, and it just provides an unlimited amount of books, current books, that are available, and they have resources in which, schools and curriculums can adapt. And I think I strongly support an equitable, inclusive classroom, and I strongly support making sure that the children are reading books from all kinds of authors in all kinds of backgrounds. And I would really love to see more of that in our community.
Thank you. Same question to Juliet Walker.
Wherever we can take action as a body to lead positive change, I'll reiterate, we need to be receptive and responsive to that role. And I certainly think whatever we can do to make our classrooms more inclusive on a variety of levels. Racial diversity is certainly important, and making sure our curriculum reflects a variety of races, but also thinking about experiences for people with different types of disabilities in the classroom and different gender identities. So I think this is a broader discussion about our overall approach in the schools to making people feel comfortable and included and reflected not only in the curriculum, but the people who are teaching them on a day-to-day basis and the people who are providing them supported services such as our guidance counselors and our administrative staff. And that is a bigger goal that will take a lot of time to recruit people to serve and teach in our schools who come from diverse backgrounds and supporting them in the community at large by providing access to affordable housing, transportation, and making our community more receptive to a more diverse population.
Thank you. And finally, Dan Blair, same question.
Yeah, I think the schools have made some good efforts with some of the programs and things they've instituted to date, and I think there's certainly more room to bring more to the schools, continue to offer more in the options and varieties in the textbooks for the students. Anything we can do in our schools that would increase tolerance and diversity for the students that we have would be a good thing, not only for the students but the city as a whole. And I would encourage and support anything we could do in the schools for our students.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Stephen Cole, 90 seconds. How do you think communication between the school committee, the school district, and parents can be improved?
Sure. Well, we have created a new position at the middle school, or at our central office, I should say, which is located at the middle school, to focus on communication. I think it's really important that the school committee engages the public in discussion about education. That's really the driver I see here, and I'd like to invite everybody here to attend school committee meetings on a regular basis. And it's not the type of meeting that you need to sit all the way through, but it provides at least one period of public comment, and it provides other ways for you to communicate, with the school committee, subsequently with school administration, I would start, if you will, with what's in the box before I go outside of the box. But the administration and our committee, school committee, has recognized the importance of communication. It's one of the reasons why we approved the position that was created at the central office. But I would just like to invite, again, reiterate, come to meetings. Let's increase the public discussion about education, and I think that will certainly help guide us to effective communications with as much as the community as possible.
Thank you. Same question, 90 seconds to Sarah Hall.
I do think there's room for improvement in this area. It's my understanding that there's a new website in the works that should be helpful. I was involved in the reopening task force in the summer of 2020, and the work that was done there was really important for our community, and I know that parents were frustrated that they didn't know what was happening in those meetings and didn't know about the decisions that were being made. And I spent a lot of time on Facebook making sure I was responding to people and answering questions. And I think that that process would have been smoother and maybe not so bumpy at the end when we were reaching our final decisions for how to reopen if parents had been involved and apprised along the way. So moving forward, I would love to see more consistent communication about meetings and important decisions being made, including the rationale behind those decisions.
Thank you. Same question, Laura Viola Macaron.
Communication is imperative. There needs to be a way to streamline communication throughout the district. As a parent, the schools feel disconnected in communication and throughout the district. I would want to work to create more unity. I've been listening to the parents in the community, and the biggest complaint that I hear is communication and transparency are not there. And I was told before that COVID happened, that there was a communication committee in the works. I would very much like to be a part of that committee and see about how we can streamline the communication for our community.
Thank you. Same question, Juliet Walker.
Thank you. So as I've said, I will encourage us to make sure we are providing an avenue for a variety of stakeholders to provide input, and I think that's really key to good communication. But on the other end, communication in this challenging, complex world is continually evolving, and every year there's a new way to get a message out, a new messaging app, a new mode of communication. And if we continually ask our parents and families to change at the drop of a hat the way that they're receiving information or trying to streamline information but using a specific tool or app that they don't understand, haven't navigated, then we're falling short. And I think I certainly agree that we need to streamline information. I think communication needs to be a priority, and it's how we avoid conflict and confusion on the part of families. And I have heard from a number of parents and families who are busy that filtering through the noise has been a real challenge for them. They have kids involved in extracurricular activities, engaged in different things in the schools. They don't know what the COVID protocols are. So I really believe that this needs to be a priority of our school committee and the administration to figure out how we can simplify and make access to information more equitable.
Thank you. Dan Blair, the same question.
As Sarah said, there's definitely room for improvement in regards to communication and transparency from the school committee and the schools. Not everyone is on Facebook, so if things get sent out that way, not everyone in the district is going to see those. The schools, they have the email addresses of all the parents. They're collected at the beginning of the year by the classroom teachers, and weekly communications go out. I think it's something the school committee could take advantage of. Additionally, I think some communication comes very late and people need to pivot on the drop of a hat. That information, and this was apparent last summer, and when people were looking to make their plans to return to school, and didn't know, and were told things were coming and would come a week later than they were told. So I do think there's considerable room for improvement on the way the way the committee communicates, the way the schools communicate, and be more transparent. Many people in town didn't know what was taking place in those meetings last summer, and we're finding out, after the fact, and that the meetings were even happening. So I think we can do better for our kids and our families in town with communication.
Thank you. And finally, Brian Callahan.
Thank you. Regarding the school reopening, I think even the school committee didn't really know a whole heck of a lot was going on at first until the plan came out and we were in our meeting. It's unfortunate, but happened, and like every part of the world, COVID messed up a whole lot of things. So I'm going to give them a bit of a break on that. In terms of general communication, as Mr. Cole said, Lisa Furlong being hired to be the communications and tech integrator is a huge boon for the district. The current website is actually being updated every day. If you're looking for school committee information, it's much easier to find. Our policies are right there on the front page. There is a lot of noise. My own email inbox, a dozen things a day, and I can see where parents who have kids doing multiple activities, sports and arts and stuff, just it goes by the wayside, and that's unfortunate. But as a school committee member, I've always strived to communicate with everybody. I return 99.9% of the calls. If you have anything you're unsure of, whether it's COVID protocols or anything at all happening in the district, you guys can always call me, and I will either have the answer for you or get you the answer or direct you to the person that has the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question, we start with Sarah Hall, and the question is, what's your philosophy around social emotional learning? How will you support teachers and the school district to bring more fresh air and the outdoors into the classroom?
I think social emotional learning is essential and needs to be addressed at all levels, K through 12. That's one of the things that I actually loved about this district as a parent, is that we put a priority on that. And the youngest children at Bresnahan are learning about being bucket fillers. People are familiar with that, and filling up someone else's bucket and making them feel good about themselves, learning about empathy, all the way up to the high school where we have the Clipper values. I think it's a really important part of what we do. You also mentioned getting kids outside. I don't know if that's like a part 2 to your question, but that's important to me as well as an environmental educator, and especially right now during COVID times, getting kids outdoors means that they can take their masks off and see each other's faces, get some fresh air. I really appreciated that as a freshman, students coming to the high school had an orientation that was outdoors. They got to spend part of their first day outdoors. It's easier to get to know each other and for their teachers to connect and get to know them if they can see their faces. So being outdoors is, I would say, more important than ever right now. Thank you.
Thank you. The same question to Laura Viola Macaron.
I think social emotional learning is phenomenal. I can already see the impacts as a parent. I have a child at the Bresnahan, and they're doing a phenomenal job. A personal story, my child had a conflict with another student, and it wasn't even on school grounds, and it was just a verbal little conflict going back and forth, but it was so unbelievably wonderful to see in how they were handling themselves and how they were just having an open discussion about their feelings and about how they were going to handle things in the future to better their friendship. And the fellow parent and I were just like, whoa, that's absolutely amazing, because they're handling situations that are better than adults do currently. I would like to see the model that is in the Brez. I would love to see it go through the Mullen and the Knock and the high school. And as far as outside is concerned, I think fresh air is good for everybody. So I fully support it.
Okay, same question to Juliet Walker.
Thank you. Yes, I also support an emphasis on social emotional learning. I think it's even more important in an era when so many of us are plugged into our phones and not interacting on a face-to-face basis for a variety of reasons. So providing ways to give kids the tools to be productive members of society through dialogue and understanding of their emotions is really important. And I think it's critical that we do get more kids outside, learning about their surroundings, understanding their community. This also connects to understanding the impacts of climate change and solutions towards climate change. So I absolutely support place-based education that is outside as much as possible. I think that's important for the school committee to remember, though, that that also means providing resources and budgeting for the extra needs that might be required for outdoor learning, particularly providing safe spaces outdoors for kids to interact in a classroom setting outdoors.
Thank you. The same question about social emotional learning to Dan Blair.
Yeah, I think the social emotional learning is very important, and I think the schools have done a good job with it. I know similar to what Laura said and what goes on at the Bresnahan, and when my daughter comes home and talks about it, I think it's amazing what they're doing for the students, and I know it carries on throughout the school system, moving through, the Mullen and the Knock and the high school. My children haven't gone through that yet. I have some friends that teach at the high school, and I know what goes on there. So, in talking with them, so I know what's happening throughout the district, and there's a lot of good things happening. And but the more we can do outside, I think that helps the social emotional learning, especially during these COVID times, and the opportunities it provides the students to be outside and see their friends' full faces, that they can do more outside, and that can't be done inside right now. And I think that helps provide the kids with both socially and emotionally those opportunities. So I would as much as we could do outside for the students throughout the year, I think is great.
Thank you. Same question to Brian Callahan.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that social emotional learning is a great thing. Like everybody else here, I had a child at the Bresnahan, and the bucket filler was very cool. Every time my daughter came home and told us the stories, it was so great. Clipper Valley's at the high school, and if you noticed in this building, there are a bunch of wave-themed banners in the hallways. That's about the Knox PBIS program. I volunteered with Principal Furlong and designed those for the school. I believe it's very important. Place-based learning outdoors, like we said before, it's a great opportunity. We had a finance meeting this morning, and we were mentioning the trip that the kids were on today, and how parents who have kids in the charter school mentioned to me, why didn't the public school have a lot of outdoor learning like the charter school did during COVID lockdown time? All of it comes down to logistics, but really it comes down to money. So Superintendent Gallagher had mentioned that he does want to expand our place-based learning, which I totally support, and I also support getting him the money to do so. We'll have a new mayor and a lot of new people on the council, and I won't stop to get that budget for his plans.
Thank you. And finally, Stephen Cole, same question for you.
Sure. I actually spent about 25 years working with students that could not be traditionally educated in the classroom, and I saw a lot of deficits in social emotional learning. And one of the things I'm really happy with in terms of our Newburyport School District is the robust and thoughtful way that it's being addressed. And hearing about all this bucket filling is really good to hear. But I really want to just remind that it's also important to provide supports for those children and students who may not have the same level and need a hand, need some understanding, so that they can greatly benefit from a program like this. In terms of outdoor learning, I knew a retired teacher that used to say, a day away and outside of school with the kids is a good day. I also think that outside learning provides hands-on opportunities to learn about new things that, whether you agree with it or not, those are ways to kind of mitigate against some of the learning deficits that we've seen from this pandemic.
Thank you very much. I think we're running out of time here. So now we go to 2-minute closings from each candidate, and we start with Dan Blair.
In closing, I'd like to thank Richard and the Daily News for putting this event on tonight. And just, personally, if I'm elected, I'm going to bring a fresh new perspective and unique professional background to the committee through both my education and my work experiences. I'm an alum of the Newburyport Public Schools. I was born and raised in this town, and my children will be attending the Newburyport Public Schools for the next 18 plus years. Professionally, I work with students every day and can bring that all back to Newburyport for improving the way things are done for the students of Newburyport and the taxpayers who support our public schools. When you make your decisions at the polls on November 2nd and in early voting, I'd ask you to please give me consideration for one of your votes, and I promise an even brighter future for the students of Newburyport. In these final days of the campaign, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Follow my page on Facebook, and if you'd like to support my campaign, please reach out, and I'd be happy to talk with you. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. And 2-minute closing for Brian Callahan.
Thanks to the Daily News and Newport Media and to my fellow candidates for tonight. We all bring different skill sets to the table, and what I always like to say is mine is that I'm a parent advocate. I've lived here for 10 years, have been volunteering for all 10 of those years and gone into the school committee basically because of later start times and that group that I was involved in, tirelessly trying to get the administration at the time and the school committee to move on it and have it. And the COVID year was the first year it was enacted. The kids were able to get to school late, but school happened to be their bedroom or their kitchen, so that was a little crazy, but I think it's a tremendous success. I was very excited to be on the school committee by the time of the vote and vote that in. I will be there for anybody who wants to talk all the time, and we'll fight for your kids, for the communication between the district and your homes, and most importantly, again, for a larger budget. We've worked on 3% budget most of the years. It's not enough. We need a higher budget from the new mayor and the new city council, and I will fight every day to get that as we go through the next budget cycle.
Thank you. Next is Stephen Cole, 2-minute closing.
Thank you. Since I was elected to serve on the school committee in 2004, I've remained committed to working in a partnership and within a true exchange of purpose to serve this community by ensuring that the children and students of Newburyport have the best education possible. Each time that we put our children, our greatest gift, on the bus, as parents, we provide ultimate trust to the schools. As a result, teachers, staff, administrators are provided an opportunity to pursue a career, avocation, and professional experience. At the end of the day, we expect our children to safely return after a full day of learning and instruction, socialization, wellness, exposure to the arts, and other positive experiences. The next day, when we put our children back on the bus, we renew that partnership and reinforce that exchange of purpose. As our children get older, they join in a partnership between the school and their parents with larger responsibility. And as they go through high school, the reality is that our children are becoming young adults. Through becoming a partner in their own education, these young adults become good citizens, knowledgeable, creative, and healthy throughout. When they graduate, they are prepared to head off to a higher education, service to our country, or a career. Like learning skills as an educator, school committee work is like an apprenticeship. I have learned that a school committee that works collaboratively with school administration, is aligned in purpose, sets a positive tone, and works with an expectation of accomplishment works best. I wish to continue my efforts because I have more to give to our schools. I thank the people of Newburyport for supporting our schools and for engagement with our schools and for being here tonight. And whenever you vote, whether by mail, early voting, or at the polls, I would be humbled to receive your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Next is Sarah Hall, a 2-minute closing.
I'd like to thank Richard Lodge and the Daily News for holding this forum, NCM Hub for broadcasting it, and everyone watching for your civic engagement. To review my background, I'm the only educator among the candidates, and I have the benefit of a lifetime of personal experience in the Massachusetts public schools. First as a student for kindergarten through 12th grade in the Lexington schools, then as a 4th and 5th grade teacher for 11 years in the Westford schools, and now as an active parent in Newburyport going on 9 years. In addition, I have followed the work of the school committee very closely for the past 1.5 years, ever since the pandemic began. I have watched every meeting, weighed in with questions and comments, and participated in the budget process through my role as a parent representative on the NHS Council. In short, if elected, I have the background, experience, and skill set to hit the ground running. I was encouraged by the results of the preliminary election, and I'm asking for your vote once again in the general election. If you want to learn more about me, get in touch, or volunteer for my campaign, please visit my website at sarahhallnbpt.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Laura Viola Macaron.
Thank you to Richard and the Daily News for providing this platform. I'm truly grateful. And to the fellow candidates for participating. I am committed to improving the educational experience for all students in Newburyport. Teachers make that happen daily in the classroom, and administrators support that work in each school. If elected to the school committee, I will do the challenging work of consistently supporting and inspiring excellent collaboration and communication within the school committee and among all participants in our public schools so that we can rise to the goal that all our students meet their full potential. I will do the challenging work of advocating for policies and programs that improve the flexibility of our schools to provide the educational experiences that draw students toward their full potential. If anyone has any questions or would love to have a conversation, please reach out. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. And finally, Juliet Walker, 2 minutes.
Thank you. All of the people up here on this stage with me care deeply about our schools, our community, and our children. We are extremely fortunate to live in a community where our schools and our children are so supported and valued, and where we have organizations like the NEF and other private and non-profit organizations who are invested in our schools. This year, you have a choice of 6 people to serve this community on 3 positions that are open on the school committee. Here's why I think you should vote for me. I care deeply about our students, and I want to help them thrive. As a city planner, I understand that quality public schools help create sustainable and vibrant communities. I have served in numerous leadership roles, both in my professional life as well as in my volunteer work here in Newburyport. I have directed a city department, prepared municipal budgets and capital plans, managed complex infrastructure and planning projects, staffed a variety of municipal boards, facilitated numerous public meetings, and chaired various committees. I will be an advocate for safe, healthy, and supportive schools, both inside and outside the classroom, and that includes not only focusing on what happens in our schools and classrooms, but supporting continued collaboration with the Beacon Coalition, Newburyport Youth Services, and so many community organizations that support our youth and families. I will work to create a world-class curriculum for all students, not only in our core academic subjects, but in foreign language, theater, arts, and music programs as well. And I've said again, an immediate priority will be focusing on correcting and recovering learning losses from the past year and a half. I will encourage us to make sure we are providing an avenue for a variety of stakeholders to provide input, and I will support evaluating and measuring our performance against the goals we have laid out in the strategic plan. I will lead by example by working to foster an environment of collaboration, accountability, and excellence among my fellow committee members and the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to have some applause for these fine folks there. I wish we had more time, but I really appreciate you all not only being in a campaign, but that's not even the hard part, as you know. It's afterwards, if you're elected. It's important work that the school committee does. I thank you for taking part in this. We're going to take a break for a few minutes and then come back around 8 o'clock and have the 2 mayoral candidates. So thank you very much. All right, we're good to go here. Okay, great. So I think we're gonna head into the second portion of the evening, and hold on one sec. Welcome, everybody. If anybody has just arrived, this is a portion with the two candidates for mayor. We're going to try to spend about an hour. And in this case, we flipped a coin, and Sean Reardon will be giving a 2-minute opening first, and then Charlie Tontar after him. And at the end, Charlie will give a 2-minute closing, and then Sean Reardon will give his 2 minutes. So I want to introduce the candidates. To my near left here is Sean Reardon, school committee candidate running for mayor, and Charlie Tontar, a city councilor at large. So we start off with a 2-minute opening statement from Sean Reardon.
Thank you. I want to thank the Daily News and Richard Lodge for hosting this event tonight here at the middle school. I want to thank Mr. Tontar also for taking part in this debate tonight, and also for his service to the community. My name is Sean Reardon, and I am currently serving on the school committee. I just finished my 4th year, and I am running to be your next mayor. This has been kind of a tough week, though. It's been interesting with the announcements of Newburyport Youth Services closing. Charlie and I both attended the rally down at Market Square before we came here, which was a tremendous show of support for Newburyport Youth Services. Newburyport Youth Services is a huge part of my everyday life and my family's life. I have 3 kids, Sadie, Ruby, and Oliver, who have been the benefits of youth services for a number of years, and we've just been a huge supporter of what they do. And we've seen like the humble beginnings that they've started from, and what Andy Egmont has been able to build that department into. But look, and again, we're all very disappointed about the fact that the doors have to close tomorrow at the Brown School, and NYS is now looking for a short-term solution to where they're going to go. And how do we get to that? And it reminds me, it's exactly why I decided to run for mayor. And I've been saying about this, since I declared back in December. I've been talking about process. I've been talking about planning. I've been talking about transparency, and I've been talking about communications. These are all things we need to do better. And this recent failure with the NYS is a good example of that. Bad process leads to bad outcomes. And we've seen this across the city, not just with the NYS, with a number of issues that we'll talk about here tonight. I know we can do better. I've been part of this community for a long time, and I am so excited about the opportunities that face us. And I look forward to talking more about my vision and Newburyport here tonight.
Thank you. And next up is Charlie Tontar. 2 minutes.
Thank you. 50 years ago, residents of Newburyport, people whose families had lived here for generations, and people who had just moved in, held a vision of what Newburyport could become. It would be a center for arts, culture, exceptional education that championed its history and celebrated its unique architecture. It would be a spectacular place in which to live. That vision was forged in the face of the threat posed by urban renewal. The new shopping malls undermined our downtown stores, and HUD offered money to rip down our historic buildings and replace them with strip malls, such as we find in Salisbury and Seabrook. Out of that threat emerged a vision for a revitalized Newburyport. We are the beneficiaries of that vision, and we thank and honor those who made it possible. Like our predecessors, we also face a threat. Like our predecessors, there are some who perceive the threat, and there are some who do not. Like our predecessors, our vision for Newburyport will be forged in the face of this threat. Today, climate change is the threat. As a coastal community, choices that we make over the next 10 years will significantly shape how we navigate climate change for generations to come. In deciding to run for mayor, I asked myself a question. What will people in Newburyport 50 years from now think of our generation? Will they honor us, or will they say that we failed them and failed our city? I have an answer for them. We have a vision, It's a vision of a city that rose to the challenge and protected itself from the effects of climate change. With your vote, I can start to make this vision a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first question, we'll alternate who answers the question first, but in this case, we're going to start with Sean Reardon. By all accounts, COVID and its variants will be part of our lives for a while. Do you think the city's health department is robust enough to monitor COVID cases, tests, and vaccines and compile data from the hospital, long-term care facilities, congregate housing, and the schools to best advise you as mayor?
Sure.
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Sure. Yeah, this is a great question. We're still fighting through COVID, fighting with the Delta variant. I think, how we've approached COVID in our schools these past 2 years now, 2020 and 2021, has really been eye-opening. And I credit Mayor Holliday for putting a lot of these COVID regulations and protocols in place and working with the different stakeholders, particularly our health department. I do think we have the bandwidth to do this now. I think we've seen it with our schools. We were able to contact trace and work with the community when we had outbreaks, which there were very little because we stuck to our protocols, which was great. We were also able, one of the few districts in the state that were able to keep in-person learning, a portion of that all year round. And I work with school districts all over the state, and that was a rarity. So I'm really proud of Newburyport for that. But we need to keep, we need to be vigilant. We need to keep these things in place until we get to the thresholds where we can start moving forward. And I do think our Board of Health is doing a great job. I think we've got some good things in place to go forward there. And, again, it's not going away. So I think as long as we're working together as a community on this, we'll get to that point where, some of these restrictions will be able to ease up.
Thank you. Mr. Tantar, 90 seconds on the same question.
Yeah, thank you. I've had the opportunity to work with the health department fairly closely, not only recently on COVID, but in the past on other issues. I do think that our health department has shown the bandwidth over the past year and a half or so. They've done a good job. There's no question about it. We may need to assist them right now because someone left, actually moved to Arizona to be with their family, and we may have to get contract employees depending upon what happens over the next couple of months. I think we're in a fairly good place. The Newburyport population is highly vaxxed in terms of having 2 vaccinations. And in terms of the school department, our level is relatively low. However, I've been following our experience. In July, we had 0 cases per 100,000, and steadily it's gone up. A week ago, when I checked the numbers, we're at 22 cases per 100,000. Not like Alabama levels a couple months ago, but we need to keep an eye on what's happening with community spread as winter approaches. We need to be cautious. We're almost there.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon, a 30-second rebuttal.
Yeah, so just in closing around COVID, I think we've been vigilant. I'm really impressed. I can speak from the schools. We have over 80% of all faculty and staff vaccinated. So when you talk about vaccine mandates and things like that, we haven't had to go there because we have been doing our jobs. And you can see that in the schools and our children as well, very high over the 80% rate. Oh, actually close to 90, which is wonderful. And I think very soon, my daughter just turned 12, so she's going for her vaccination next few days. And I think that age 5 to 11 will be coming up here soon. So I think we're in a good place right now, but we need to keep vigilant.
Okay, thank you. The next question, since I think youth services and the fate of youth services and the Brown School are very much on people's minds this week. Charlie Tantar, the question to you, you have 90 seconds. Did the city drop the ball on the Brown School? If elected, will you commit to finding a permanent home for youth services? And will you pursue the National Guard property on Low Street?
First of all, the most immediate thing that we need to do is support youth services and Andy Egmont in finding a place for youth services to work immediately. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, I'll be going to look at a site on Parker Street. I will listen very carefully to the advice and whether or not it fits their needs. We need to get them up and running immediately. As far as dropping the ball, that's a pretty complex question. I supported the purchase of Low Street. There were 5 of us who voted in favor of it. There were 6 councilors who did not. It required 8 votes to purchase it, and we just couldn't get there. I reached across the aisle, so to speak, and I made every effort to work on a compromise to get to those votes. I know that Youth Services did not particularly want to stay at the Brown School, and they were looking for another site. As far as dropping the ball earlier, I think that would have required, say 7 or 8 years ago, borrowing money to go there. We had, just, bonded out for the water treatment facility, the wastewater facility. We had bonded out to build the Brez School and the senior center. And, 7 years ago, there wasn't an appetite to borrow money at that point. That was a real threat. That was a real impediment.
We've hit the time there.
Thank you.
All right. Sean Reardon, the same question to you.
Yeah, so I've already spoke to my passion about youth services. I've been a huge supporter. I've been on the Friends of Newburyport Youth Services for years. My kids love the NYS, and I think we have a great leader in Andy Egmont. To say we didn't absolutely drop the ball on this is just missing the whole story. So what happened with the Low Street purchase, 57 Low Street? That has nothing to do with what's happening right now to youth services. We were still years away, even if we had purchased that building, which I was in support of, to getting a new center for youth services. What's the failure is that we didn't have a backup plan, okay? The Brown School was a broken down building. It served a great purpose for youth services. But we've known for 7 years that this day was coming. We've gone day to day, hour and hour with this boiler, and we knew when it was going to kick that they'd be out of work. So we had no plan B. So it's a colossal failure in my estimation, all right? We've had multiple opportunities. There's been deals that have fallen through. We've had chances to find different houses for youth services, and it just wasn't a priority. And again, when you're electing a mayor, you're talking about a priority list. Who's going to prioritize our children? Okay, so again, I think we have to be clear about that. So, what can we do? I think going forward, we have a short-term solution. I, too, am going tomorrow. That email, that's just not Charlie going. We're all going tomorrow at 8:30 to check out the site. And then long-term, we got 3 sites coming up. We have to pick a permanent home for youth services. So again, hopefully we can do something as quick as possible and get them in a short-term solution and then work on the long-term solution. But again, you'll find no one more invested in youth services than Sean Reardon.
Thanks. Mr. Tantar, 30 seconds.
Yes, I too am a supporter of youth services, even though I don't have any children of an age where they would use it right now. I actually donated the pool table that's used there, so I'm kind of responsible for corrupting all your children, and you can blame me for that. I have supported youth services every step of the way since I've been on the council, and now in my 8th year. All right, and that's why I supported the purchase of Low Street, and I want that to be open now as well and available as an option.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next question is also having to do with buildings, and this goes to Sean Reardon. Given the ongoing sagas over the remodeling of the oldest house in the city, which dates to 1653, and the Fowles News Store, do you think Newburyport needs a historic district or stringent regulations governing exterior home and business renovations? In 90 seconds.
Sure. Well, this is an important question, and historic preservation is real important to me. One, because I'm just a lover of history. I was just blessed by being born and raised here in Newburyport, an historic seaport. There's just history all around us. So I think that's very important. 2, it's our brand that we need to protect here in Newburyport. Okay, and our downtown is a big part of that. So I think you're asking a very specific question about zoning. So what I would like to say about our business, about our real estate that we need to protect, particularly the downtown, I'm in complete favor of protecting the downtown overlay district, defending it. Now, there's two things with that. We have to defend our boards that are making these decisions, and that has to come from the mayor's office, backing up the volunteer boards that are put into these positions to make these decisions around historic preservation. And we also have to have enforcement. When you don't have enforcement, contractors don't have to follow the rules. They can do what they want, and that's when we get into trouble. And I think this past year we've seen with challenges to the DOD, I think that's raised the level of concern here in town, because now they're challenging the thing that's protecting our buildings. We mentioned earlier about the beginning in urban renewal. We need to go back to that and protect that. We spent thousands of dollars on a zoning rewrite that would help solve some of these problems, and then it just stopped. It wasn't completed. It was another thing that we started in town that we didn't complete. So one of the things I'm committing to is completing that. And again, that DOD is in place for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Charlie Tantar. You have 90 seconds.
When I first ran 8 years ago, I ran in part because of the failure of the local historic district. I'm committed to the preservation of the city for two reasons. One, I live in a 270-year-old house, so I appreciate the antiquity of the city and what it means to us. But it's not just in terms of appreciating the style or the built environment. It is also critical for the economic vibrancy of this city. All right, our brand is its historic character. I did vote in favor of the Downtown Overlay District. I support the Downtown Overlay District. As mayor, I will do everything to preserve the Downtown Overlay District. That will include taking a very hard look at it and seeing if it can be improved. There hasn't been any case law at all on that would give us guidance as to how we would do if we were to go into court and if someone would challenge us with a lawsuit. So I think we have a dual track. One, protect it as much as we can, and secondly, examine the possibility of making it stronger. And I have some ideas to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon?
Yeah, it's critical. And so like I said, we've already put resources towards this in the zoning rewrite, which whole goal is to solidify the Downtown Overlay District, and we didn't complete it. So again, I'm going to commit to completing that zoning rewrite. I think we need clear expectations. I think we need to protect businesses and neighbors. There needs to be finding a balance there. But it is critical for the brand of our town as a historic seaport and the character of Newburyport to have that Downtown Overlay District in place. And the fact that it's been challenged in a couple different lawsuits this year is concerning. And I think we need to be very aware of that, and we have to be prepared to defend that at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, we start with Charlie Tantar. You had to know that a hotel and New England development were going to come up because it's certainly a major issue in Newburyport. Mr. Tantar, you each have said you support a hotel on the waterfront, specifically at the waterfront west area, which is still owned by New England Development. How would you bring Ned back to the negotiating table, and how will you rebuild the public trust to see this project through? 90 seconds.
First of all, as mayor, I will advocate for a hotel to address economic development needs, and I will challenge the 40B housing with all the city's resources and invite NED to rejoin negotiations. I'm committed to that. I want to back off a little and tell you that we have engaged in discussions that are privileged, so I'm going to be careful in what I say here. But I welcome actually having a negotiation with NED. NED helped write a current overlay district, which essentially was protecting the character of downtown and moving it to the waterfront. That is, having three-story buildings with storefronts on the first level, business services on the second, and then on the third level, having residences. When New England Development got around, to trying to develop the site about 10 years or so after they had bought it, they needed some relief. Things had certainly changed. It had become a FEMA flood zone. It was a hard project to do. We were committed to working with them. However, there are certain things that we had to protect. One, was the height. All right, would we destroy our height line, our skyline? You know, secondly, would we require that all parking be on site? You know, I'm out of time.
Sorry, you're out of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Reardon, 90 seconds.
So it's amazing, you know, I started knocking on doors in April, and how this issue has really moved to the front of the line with a lot of the issues we have going in town around Waterfront West. You know, and I think our goal is to welcome an attractive and sensible development there. It's such a crucial piece of our waterfront, okay? And we want to avoid something that's out of character. Now, unfortunately, I think this is a big difference between Mr. Tontar and I, is that I wasn't part of those discussions 3 years ago, where they kept coming forward with different iterations, and we kept saying no, 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 and there wasn't really a back and forth. And so New England Development got frustrated, and they walked away from the table. It's been quiet for 3 years. It's not a coincidence, I don't think, that they're waiting till a mayoral election to propose a 40B there. Now, it's important to understand that they don't have to come back to the table with us. We have to give them a reason to come back to the table with us, okay? So, and I think I'm their best chance to do that. We're going to have a new council. I think before, it was a very flawed process dealing with New England development. I think the mayor and the city council were not on the same page. We're going to have a new council. As mayor, I'm going to work with them to come up with a cohesive strategy to approach New England development, and I think we need to find a win-win from Newburyport. Now, a hotel is a huge part of that, and I've been speaking about a small boutique hotel conference center for a long time now. I think that brings year-round business to Newburyport. I think that helps our shops in downtown, and then you have to find that mixed income housing for that area as well. But there has to be, you have to reach over across the table and invite them back, and hopefully we can do that. There's an organization, they own a lot of different properties in town, and I think maybe there's a way we can work with them someplace else to help them work with our crucial
Thank you very
waterfront.
much. Mr. Tontar, you want 30 seconds?
Right. There was no effort to reach across to new NED. We certainly did. And also, the council actually and the mayor were on the same page on this, as were the 7 members of the planning board. Again, what has to be decided in reopening discussions is what to give up. What are we going to give up? And I think, Sean, you have to indicate that. Are you going to willing to give up the hotel? All right, in order to get a lower skyline? Are you willing to give up the parking spaces? What will you give up in your negotiations?
Thank you. Next question, we start with Sean Reardon, 90 seconds. Do you think the Sasaki plan for the waterfront park, which got a lot of input from many different corners of the city, do you think that plan shuns the fishing industry that defined so much of the city's heritage? And in the bigger picture, how do you think the city can finance a project now tagged at around $8 million?
Sure, yeah, so I've been following that along. I'm a big proponent of, keeping the waterfront open and finishing the park. Again, this is another issue that's been going on for a lot of years. It's one of the reasons why the garage moved forward, so we could remove parking spaces from the waterfront. And so I'm committed to keeping that open and finishing the park. I was really impressed with the planning, but it was interesting to hear from the fishing industry how that was going to be affecting them. So I do think that's why we have presentations and forums to go back to the table. And I think, we have to go back there and hopefully tweak that so, we can encourage that fishing industry to keep thriving on the waterfront. And I'm sure there's, as again, opening communications, there's ways to do that. As far as the price tag, everything, it's all about money. It's all about money and it's all about priorities. So again, I think we have to aggressively look for grants to help with the waterfront park. I think as well as a new mayor coming in, and this is one of the things I'm really excited about, after having a leader for 12 years, we're going to have someone with a fresh perspective come in and look at what we're doing across the board. We've done this a lot on the school committee the last 4 years. We've looked at how we're spending money, and are there ways that we can trim the fat and put that money towards initiatives that's really going to move the needle for students. I think it's absolutely the way you can do it in public organization as well. This is a bureaucracy that's been in place for a long time. We need to look at what we're doing, see if we can do it efficiently, and we can do it better, and hopefully allocate those resources for things that are different priorities on the list, like the waterfront park.
Thank you. Same question to Charles Tontar.
Sure. On the first part of the question as to whether or not the design missed in terms of providing appropriate access for commercial fishermen, And the answer to that is absolutely they missed on it. There's no question about that. But it certainly is fixable, and I understand that it has already been fixed in terms of the design. That's a high priority, and you have an entrance next to the Custom House. They'll be able to get in there, and they just missed on that one. On the second question on financing on $8 million, this is related very much to a number of issues. And we have a bunch of projects that we need to get done. I am committed to being a fiscal conservative. I am committed not to increase your taxes. And as a result of that, I'm very worried about how to finance everything that my opponent has said that he wants to finance. I suspect that we will have to use community preservation funds to bond out to do part of the waterfront park. And I also strongly suspect that unless we can provide win sufficient grants, we are going to have to do a staged process where we do one part when we have the money and then keep doing it later on. I don't think we can do it all at once.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon, you want 30 seconds?
Did Mr. Tonto just say conservative in the sentence? That was pretty good.
I did.
That was pretty good.
Fiscal conservative.
Fiscal conservative. Okay. So, it's nice when we can go do these things in a public process, because you can find the things that no plan is perfect, and so it's nice that the fishing industry spoke up, and that you can go back to the table and fix the ways that plan wasn't going to work for them. Yeah, and again, as far as the fiscal responsibilities of completing the park on the waterfront, yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and I'm going to have to work together to make those decisions and move that project forward.
Thank you. The next question, and again, 90 seconds to answer, goes to Charlie Tantar. Over the last 18 months, the city has focused on efforts to bolster restaurants and retail shops. What actions would you take to attract and retain professional services and other businesses and industries in the city?
Yeah, thank you. So that's a broader question than just downtown. The first thing I want to say, in terms of economic development, I am going to be the point of contact for any business, large or small, a business that's been here for 70 years or one is just thinking of locating here. I don't think it's appropriate to have someone in the planning office being that point of contact. I will be the point of contact. That's the first point. The second point is I'm going to talk a little bit about our industrial base. What economists do when you look at an industrial base, you look at empirically at what exists, and we have a very, very strong manufacturing sector. That's a strength. It's over $500 million in sales per year. However, it's also a weakness because manufacturing is declining overall in the United States and Massachusetts. And so therefore we have to really focus on what we need to do as properties become available for sale to attract businesses. Downtown, I've spoken out many times, it's really critical that we keep a vibrant downtown, not just for the downtown, not just for the small businesses that are there, but because our downtown is the very core, the very heart of what has made Newburyport such an attractive place to locate. Instead of tearing it down, as I said in my introductory remarks, and putting it in strip malls, we have preserved a classic downtown, and that serves us very well and must be protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Reardon, 90 seconds.
Yeah, our small businesses are the lifeblood here in Newburyport. And, again, working in a lot of these businesses over the years downtown, you really get a sense of that. There's really a sense of community there. And again, we're a destination. That's our brand, and we need to continue that. I absolutely believe that we need an economic development / culture and arts point person in City Hall. We've never had it, and I think just going forward, I'm looking at other communities that are doing it. We need someone that's dedicated to the community, who's looking for those grants to help businesses get started, who's looking for grants to help them stay in business. for looking for ways we can promote tourism and being a cultural and arts center in town. We are so lucky that we have that in place, but we need someone who's going to continue to work. And this isn't just to downtown as well. We need someone to work with our business park. I've talked to many leaders in our business park already, and there's many things that we can do to improve that relationship and improve that area, whether it be transportation, having bus stops. I mean, right now everyone's struggling with employees and keeping, keeping their staffed at appropriate levels. But I do think we need that person in City Hall to be that point person. And we have to look beyond the city for economic opportunities as well. The C&J Park and Ride owned by Mass DOT, the Story Ave Corridor, again, the business park. And then I can't stress enough the importance of that hidden economy that we have in our arts that brings millions of dollars into the city every year. And finally, a hotel that will bring year-round, and a conference center that would bring year-round business to the downtown. I also think the C&J spot could be a good spot for a hotel and have a shuttle that ran downtown. But we need this. Right now, our businesses need it. The restaurants are getting empty much earlier and earlier because people have to go home.
I think we're at the
We've got to be more than a day stop.
The time wall here. Mr. Tantar, do you want 30 seconds on that?
Yeah, for downtown, I have argued for some time now that we need to brand our downtown as a arts, cultural, ecotourism center that champions our historic character and preserves it. And I think we certainly have taken steps to do that in the current administration. We have to up those steps and support our downtown. However, we have other sectors in the economy that are important, including healthcare, which is a very strong sector.
I'm sorry, 30 seconds goes really fast. It takes about 30 seconds for it to end. The next question, we start, and again, 90-second answers. We start with Sean Reardon. We're heading over here to the environment and climate change. Study after study has warned about flooding and inundation of waterfront communities by the mid-century mark, which is just 29 years from now. Do you think the city should take steps now to limit or curtail building on the waterfront? And what if such restrictions conflict with residents' personal property rights?
Well, climate change obviously is incredibly important. We were able to put together the community led by Mayor Holliday, the Climate Resiliency Plan, which is incredibly important. It came out last October 2020. And we need to continue that work on the resiliency plan and see that work through. Now, as far as building on the water, I am not in favor of infringing on people's property rights. And I think you're getting at Plum Island. And I'm really concerned about the residents of Plum Island at Reservation Terrace. They're in really they're in a really tough spot, and they're scared every day. But what they're dealing with is a human-made problem. The Army Corps of Engineers redid the jetty out in Plum Island. The sand can't pass through, and just hundreds of yards of sand have been disappearing for the last 5 years. Okay, so that's a human-made problem that I think we need to help and be there for our residents. Again, I'm more in favor of adapting opposed to retreating, and I think the mayor needs to take the lead on that. And as far as building, let's say on the waterfront, again, I think Waterfront West is a good example. I mean, whoever comes in there for the development, whether it be coming back to the table with New England Development and working on a plan to develop that area, they're going to have to have a great design team to worry about flooding in that area, because that's a major concern, not just for the businesses there, but also for whatever we're going to be planning on doing with the waterfront park as well. We're going to invest all this money. We need to have protections in place to keep those things at the top of everyone's mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Charlie Tantar.
Sure. Just right from my introductory remarks, my opening remarks, you know how important climate change is to me, and how important I feel it is to begin immediately addressing climate change. It's real. It's here. And it's not just something that's going to affect our grandchildren. It affects us. It's an immediate problem. I have noted that the algal bloom that we suffered last year in our water supply, we were able to deal with it, but if it had been toxic, we would have lost 80% of our water supply from the reservoirs, right? 80%, right? We absolutely, immediately have to take steps to protect that water supply, and that is the highest priority for me immediately. As far as, I believe what you said on the waterfront, I think I'm not so worried about the waterfront. We have FEMA and Chapter 91 rules in terms of Waterfront West. Out on Plum Island, absolutely. I will do everything as mayor to protect Reservation Terrace in particular. A lot of people on the mainland say, don't spend my tax dollars putting sand out there. The Reservation Terrace problem is a different problem. I mean, the Army Corps of Engineer hardened that South Jetty, cut off the sand, at least that's one theory, right? There are a number, what happened, and we need to work with them to correct that.
Time's up. Sean Reardon, you want 30 seconds on that?
Yeah, just to go back to Plum Island, you know, those residents, like a lot of neighborhoods in town, have just felt neglected for a long time. So, the fact is, we've been doing a lot of Band-Aids out there over the past, few years now, and we haven't had the results. So, as mayor, I am absolutely going to take the lead on this. We need to work with our state and federal, the entities that are involved around Reservation Terrace. We have to support our residents there. And we need to come up with better solutions and not Band-Aids. And again, I think, looking at these places, I think Plum Island is one of those neighborhoods that just want to feel like that their tax dollars are going to them as well and not just the rest of the city. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Going to infrastructure here, sticking with that, a lot of, we start with Charlie Tantar on this one, a lot of road and sidewalk restoration projects are underway in the city. But Newburyport's uneven bricked walkways and broken pavement make it pretty difficult for people with disabilities to get around. Will your budget include funds to address access and walkability, and how will you prioritize projects and neighborhoods?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are required when we repair streets and sidewalks in particular to assure that they meet ADA standards. So that's not a question. We have to do it, and we have to spend the money to do it right. In terms of how we prioritize, the current administration and the council funded it has undertaken a study with that the Beta Corporation did, Beta Group did. They have rank ordered every street and every sidewalk in the city, and streets is 0 to 100, 0 being the worst, 100 being the best, right? They have also cataloged what's underneath the streets, where the water pipes will break. They've gone to National Grid, and they've spoken to National Grid and gotten information as to where the gas pipes will break. All right? And so therefore, in putting together a plan, and the Beta Corporation is suggesting a plan that could put us on a cycle so we are replacing all streets in about a 20 to 25 year cycle, and the sidewalks, of course, last a lot longer. The major impediment to undertaking that, of course, has been a financial one on the one hand, and on the other hand, a capacity one. As mayor, I will make it a high priority of mine to spend more money on streets and sidewalks. The time is right now.
Same question to Sean Reardon, 90 seconds.
So this has been the #1 issue I'm hearing at the doors. And again, I've been knocked on thousands of doors since April. And I think I've been very clear since I came out in December that I'm going to make neighborhood infrastructure a high priority and the top priority of my administration. We just have too many streets and sidewalks that aren't up to code. We have residents across and this isn't a ward specific, across the city, people are getting hurt, and it becomes a quality of life issue. Okay, and I know we can do better. We have our Chapter 90 money that we do each year, $500,000. We have our meals tax, half our meals tax, $300,000. We need to do more. Mr. Tantar was Budget and Finance Director of subcommittee for 7 years. 6 of those years, there wasn't one tax dollar spent on cities and sidewalks. Not one. So it hasn't been a priority. And again, when you're electing a mayor, you're electing a priority list. I want to put a transparent process in place. I want people to be able to look on when they finally do release this beta plan, which again, we've been waiting for this plan to come out. I don't know why they don't want it to release it, but it is ready. I want to put a transparent process in place. I want someone to be able to look and say, oh, my street's getting done. It's not going to be this year, but next year. I'd love to get on a schedule where we do wards 2, 3, and 5 this year, and we're going to do 2, 4, and 6 the next year. But we just need to do better. The one thing I'm going to do, and it is going to come down to funding, I think we need a bond to do that. I'm going to work to restore the original $2 million per year, so 5 years, $10 million bond amount. Mr. Tantar was one of the biggest opponents of that. They trimmed it down to $1.2 million per year, and I met with Ethan Manning the other day. We have not spent $1 of that, and that was 2 years ago. Thank
We're
you.
at the time. Thank you. Mr. Tontar, 30 seconds?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to address that. When the three councilors put a bond authorization for the mayor in place for $10 million over 5 years, they did not provide a rationale. They did not indicate how they came up with that amount. And it's my job as a city councilor to protect your tax dollars. So we knew there was a need, but we did not know from what they put into committee how much it would
30
cost or whether it was fiscally responsible.
Great. Thank you very much. Again, another maybe a short infrastructure question, starting with Sean Reardon. Some residents call the Plummer Spring Bridge off Route 113 a vital east-west connection. Should reopening the Plummer Spring Road be a priority?
Well, you know, I've walked those neighborhoods quite a bit, and this is a huge issue out in wards 5 and 6. And, you know, again, that's another area where we don't have great sidewalks, so safety is definitely an issue out there on our streets. And the traffic has increased tremendously. We have bigger trucks coming down the Turkey Hill Road area than ever did before. And residents have noticed. I talked to people on the Hale Street who have complained and noticed that something needs to be done. And so, you know, it's a tough one because it definitely needs to be done. I think we should invest the money to do it, but again, you're talking about priorities. So, you know, again, I want to work on our streets and sidewalks, but I think we need to find a way to work with West Newbury to get that project complete because it is affecting the wards 5 and 6 neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tontar, 90 seconds.
Yeah, sure. The problem is with the closure of the bridge that it has changed traffic patterns. And so as I go through the Turkey Hill neighborhood, I've been hearing a lot of complaints about increased truck traffic and increased traffic in general through their neighborhoods. And so they would very much like to see the bridge open back up. Another possibility that we should do immediately is change the detour signs and get more traffic to go down Low Street rather than to go down Turkey Hill. You know, the council did not have an appetite for spending Newburyport money especially given the large price tag for it. The governor has put money for small bridges into the budget from ARPA funds. I think we really have an opportunity to work with West Newbury and to get it done.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon, you want 30 seconds on that?
Yeah, I think we need to get it done. I think, you know, if the council didn't have an appetite for it, I mean, I think this is where communication comes into play. You know, we have to give residents a voice. And again, you can knock on 3 doors out in wards 5 and 6, and you're going to hear about Plummer Spring Bridge. So I think we do need to do a better job. I think we need to have that public forum and let those residents' voices be heard. And, you know, I think we do have to find the funds to complete this project and work with us, Newbury.
Thank you. So the next question, we're going to start with Sean Reardon, 90 seconds. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion here about the priorities that the new mayor...
I think it's Charlie's question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. So we start with Charlie Tontar. A lot of discussion here about the priorities of where to spend the money when so many things are calling for spending. Some Massachusetts cities are designating funds to enhance training, specifically mental health training for police officers. Do you support such an initiative for the Newburyport Police Department, knowing it might cost money?
Could you repeat that last phrase, knowing what?
Do you support an initiative for this kind of training, to enhance training for the Newburyport Police Department, knowing it would cost money?
So, you know, I understand in looking at the state budget that there is going to be significant funds available for police training. I would work with the marshal and the police department to identify funds. I think there is no department for training, identify funds for training. There is no department in the city that cannot be improved. You know, I know the police department fairly well. I know a number of the officers. I have never found them to be hesitant to embrace training. I want to say something else. Newburyport Police Department is the lead department in an Essex County grant program that provides funds for social service agencies. So regardless of where one is arrested in Essex County, the program would take someone and put them in a divergent program. Around here it would be Pettingill House, and get them the help that they need. Again, it was our police department that led in that effort and leads the effort throughout Essex County. I think there will be funds for training. I would work with the police. I think they certainly would welcome that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon, 90 seconds.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with the marshal the other day, and training did come up on a lot of different areas. And again, if this training's out there, I think we should take advantage of it. And I think we're right. Mental health, causes right now. There's such a wealth of information and funds out there, and I think we need to take advantage of that. And I think with any department, training is important. I can tell you from my time on the school committee, we've looked very hard at the training that we're doing and the opportunities that we're giving teachers, whether it be around issues of inclusion and equity and excellence, or whether it's around skills-based training. So again, training is a good thing, planning is a good thing, and I think the police department would very much be in favor of adding to their skill set and their connection with the community and being a part of mental health training.
Thank you. Mr. Tonto, you want 30 seconds on that?
I think we've covered that topic. I think everyone's open to training. It's not very controversial.
Great, thank you. Next question, and we have time for a couple more questions. We start with, I think I'll get it right, Sean Reardon this time. 90 seconds here. Can you tell us some of your ideas for increasing the commercial tax base in Newburyport? What do you see as the biggest source of economic growth in the city?
Well, I think this feeds into that economic development question that we had earlier. That commercial growth needs to continue, and I think we need to just expand to different parts of the city. I already spoke about this a little bit, but we have to look for different areas. Waterfront West is a big part of that. Our downtown is always going to be a big part of that, but then we have to look to the business park and look to expand opportunities out there. And I do think having this economic point person in City Hall is going to be a real benefit to that. But again, we have to look beyond that. So we have to look at the Story Ave corridor. We have to look at the CJ bus station, which was, again, I was very disappointed that the city let that get away and move up to New Hampshire. But again, that's sitting there now. That's a Mass DOT site. I think we absolutely can approach them. I've actually had a few conversations already, and I'm sure that's a great location for a hotel or some other commercial economic development that would come there and bring dollars into the city. But again, we have to look at those. We have to have someone actually doing the work and looking for those opportunities to expand that growth. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Tantar, 90 seconds.
Sure. In Newburyport, if you asked a question as to why we need economic development, in a lot of communities it's because you need more jobs. We don't need more jobs, we need more workers, right? A second reason when people think about economic development, what they talk about is increasing median income. Our unemployment rate is one of the lowest in the state. We have a fairly low rate of poverty, and the particular problems that need to be addressed in terms of that. So neither one of those normal economic development goals what exist. I think our major goal for seeking economic development is to increase the commercial and industrial share of taxes that are paid, and therefore to provide tax relief to residences. The challenge is how to do it. Certainly Waterfront West may help a little. We don't have a lot of land that's available for development. I look at the business park, and as we move forward, diversifying it, and seeking more high-end workers. I mean, what really makes this city so attractive and has driven the increase in residential values is this is a great place to live. And sort of firms that provide high-end products or produce high-end products and use high-end workers want to live in locations that produce that have a lot of amenities and are very nice places to live. So I think we can do it, but it will take time.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon, you want 30 seconds on that?
Sure. I mean, I just think, I think we highlighted a few of the same things. Again, we are 80% developed here in town, so we have to be creative in the spaces that we have. And again, I think that economic point person at City Hall is going to be the one driving that and hoping to bring some of these businesses into the city.
Thank you. Next question, I think we start with Charlie Tantar. I think everybody acknowledges there's a need for more affordable housing in Newburyport as property values go up and it's just more expensive to live here. And not just affordable housing, but permanent supportive housing in our community. Seniors complain they're waitlisted to get into the Sullivan House. Do you have any ideas of how to address this issue? 90 seconds.
Well, as a city councilor, I was a strong advocate of the 40R smart growth sector that helps to address affordable housing. We're going to have maybe 240 units there in total, which are apartments and rentals. We need more apartments and rentals. And so that has helped a little bit. I was also a strong advocate of affordable housing in the Hillside project, which provided 10 deeply affordable units, although and finally, I think we have an opportunity now at the Brown School to get maybe somewhere in the range of 20 affordable units. So we have some possibilities. As a city councilor, I was a champion for trying to reduce property taxes for older residents. And I was able to win some and lose some on that, but that consistently has been an effort of mine. I think another category that we should take a really close look at is so-called accessory housing in our zoning, to allow an older person to share the dwelling with a son or daughter. I think that's a win-win for everyone involved, and so I think there are some serious steps that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon, 30 seconds.
Yeah, this is a huge issue, and it affects a lot of different, pockets of people in town. Seniors, our workforce. Again, I worked in a lot of our restaurants downtown, and again, we just don't have those units right now that people that work in our shops in downtown, we don't have them, and those people can't live here. And again, the workers that are working down the industrial park, the business park, they're having trouble finding workers because they have a hard time getting workers there. So again, this is a huge issue, and it fits into a lot of the different things, whether it be economic development, being considered a. Wait, I just started, Joe.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question here. I'm sorry?
What? I know, but I didn't answer the question. I didn't do it the first time.
That was a quick 90 seconds.
We need affordable housing. Thank you.
Sorry. We're both.
That's
yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
This is very consistent for Joe. Joe did this to me a little while ago, and he just wanted to do it one more time tonight. Yeah, very consistent, Joe. Thank you. So I get like 2 minutes now, right?
Yeah.
Is that what happens? Yeah. And then you have to go sit back at the back. Is that what happens?
There was some stoppage time.
So again, this
there,
is a huge issue. And again, we have to get to this point because what we're dealing with at Waterfront West right now with the threat of a 40B is because we're so far below that affordable housing threshold. So again, as the mayor working with the different departments in town, I mean, this has to be a priority throughout many departments in town. We have to work with the Housing Authority. We have to work with the Affordable Housing Trust. And we have some things on the table. We need to keep enticing these projects to go forward because, they're just incredibly important. Never mind, it's the right thing to do, right? So what do we have going on? We have Waterfront West. I'm confident I can get New England Development back to the table, and we're going to make affordable housing a part of any project that goes there. Brown School, it was mentioned. Again, it's had a tough week, but we're going to still move forward while targeting that for senior affordable housing. That is a major need in town. The Haley's Emerald Dairy project came to light this week, part of that 40R district. Again, we need to look for ways to expand and maximize that district, and that's going to bring, that could be a great project. I know it's always sad when we lose businesses here in town, but I think that could be a great project, and I think we're going to have to need to listen to our neighbors around that area as we move forward with that. But we need to get to that threshold of 10%, so we can fight against these types of developments like 40B at Waterfront West. We need to get there, and it's the future of Newburyport to do that, to find that affordable housing to get us there.
Thank you. I think, Mr. Tontar, 30 seconds?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, affordable housing, the need for affordable housing is not exclusively for older Newburyporters who wish to stay in this community. It's also a need for younger people as well. I mean, someone who works in Newburyport, works for the city of Newburyport, ought to be able to live here. And what we've been hitting, you know, actually it's our success that has caused the problem. That, you know, it's like standing on the beach when a tsunami comes in, the increase in residential values, and
thank you.
We need to address it.
Okay. I think we're going to do one more question here. And if I get this right, so we start with Sean Reardon. And this is very specific. What do you think is the city's one most important need for funding that currently is underfunded? One thing.
Well, streets and sidewalks. It's without a question. I mean, and it's an issue that's affecting every ward here in town. And it's just because it hasn't made a priority over the past 7 to 8 years. You know, there hasn't been a plan in place. We've been just using the funds that are given to us through our meals tax and through Chapter 90. But again, it needs to be a priority. It's a quality of life issue. We all pay taxes here in Newburyport. We deserve good streets and sidewalks, whether it be someone disabled trying to walk down our streets in town and can't, or whether it's, you know, a mother pushing a stroller. There's just too many places in town where that can't happen. And we want to move towards, you know, being a pedestrian-friendly community. I think that's what Newburyport should be. But again, people come to town and they're just shocked at what we have here as far as streets and sidewalks. You know, Amesbury and Newbury are doing a lot of their in-house streets and sidewalks, and they have a smaller budget than we do. Why can't we do things like that? So I think we need to be creative, and I think and above all else, we just have to invest the funds to do it. And we haven't done it the past 12 years, for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Tontar, 90 seconds.
Sure. First of all, I want to say a couple things about that. I think we've had our priorities right. You know, we have built the new Bresnahan School, a senior center. You know, about 10 years ago, we spent over $60 million, all right, on our wastewater treatment facility and our water treatment facility. Taxpayers got hit pretty hard, both in their water and sewer bills, and also with the override in their tax bills. I think we had our priorities right, and yeah, something got left behind. Streets and sidewalks were given a lower priority because we set higher priorities. Right? You know, a couple of years ago, as I said, I opposed $2 million per year for 10 years because it wasn't fiscally responsible. The council voted 11-0 to support that position. You know, currently, I think we have a great opportunity with an infrastructure bill that passes, you know, if Congress ever gets its act together all over the country, all over the state. Every community has deferred capital on streets and sidewalks. There's going to be a phenomenal opportunity to jump on it. I'm ready to jump on it when it occurs, but it's not only just streets and sidewalks, it's what's underneath them in our entire infrastructure, drainage, water, sewage. We have to address it all, and we need help from the feds to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon, 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I think that'd be great. You know, the infrastructure bill has been you know, stuck up in Congress for a while now, but this is something Newburyport can do. And again, it is a priority, and I don't think it's a matter of doing sidewalks or building a school. That wasn't the case. We had the ability to put money towards streets and sidewalks. 2 years ago, we passed a bond for, let's see, 5 years at a reduced amount of $1.2 million. But that money hasn't even been spent yet. That was 2 years ago. It's just sitting there. And so again, it's about priorities. And I don't know how many residents need to get hurt before we start taking care of our great city that we all live in.
I think we hit the 30 seconds there. Thank you very much. Now we come to the final part of this program, and we flipped a coin earlier. And so the first 2-minute closings are from Charlie Tantar.
Thank you. In my opening comments, I spoke of my vision for a Newburyport 50 years from now. It would be an exceptional place to raise a family, educate our children, make lifelong friends, and build community. It would respect our history and traditions and celebrate our unique architecture. It would be a welcoming community for all, regardless of ethnicity, race, or place of birth. It would be a walkable city with up-to-date infrastructure, including well-paved streets, modern protected water and sewer systems, and effective drainage. It would respect the power of nature. How do we achieve this vision? The first step is to elect a mayor who understands the challenges we face and has the experience, background, and skill set to set priorities, one who can hit the ground running. I'm an economist with areas of specialty in environmental economics and urban and regional economics. I've been on the City Council for 8 years and have chaired the Committee on Budget and Finance and the Committee on Public Utilities. The latter committee oversees water and sewer divisions. I'm a professor who worked with the EPA, FEMA, the National Park Service, and HUD while assisting the City of Lawrence while on leave from teaching. There is no substitute for hands-on experience, and I possess that hands-on experience. The next mayor will inherit a city on a solid foundation. We are well positioned to take on the substantial challenges posed by climate change while continuing to provide exceptional city services. With inexperienced leadership, however, we could easily lose ground and forfeit our hard-earned gains. I ask for your vote for mayor. Together, we can begin to make our vision a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. And 2 minutes, Sean Reardon.
Sure. Thank you to Daily News and Richard Lodge again. Thank you for Joe for doing a great job at the time. I just want to remind everyone, early voting starts Monday at the Senior Center, so make a plan. You can vote all week, Monday to Friday. Most days it's 8:30 to 3:30. There's a couple other days that's a little shorter, but Monday through Friday, make a plan. If you can't get there next week, please make a plan to get there on November 2nd, Election Day. I want to thank Charlie for entering this race. He has absolutely made me a better candidate by entering this race. I want to thank everyone for the continued support. I've been truly humbled every day of this campaign by the response I've received at the doors, at events, even tonight down at Market Square with NYS. Just everywhere I go, incredibly positive. But now it's time to make a choice. It's time to make a choice in this mayor's race. Do we want to move forward or do we want to take a step back? Okay, I ran for council the same year Mr. Tantar did in 2013, and I can tell you what the big issues were that year. The West End Fire Station, streets and sidewalks, and a home for the NYS. Also a hotel, but that's been 50 years we've been talking about hotel. And where are we? We're talking about the same exact issues 8 years later. So again, when you elect a mayor, you're electing that priority list, okay? I think it's time for something new. After 12 years of Mayor Holliday, I think we need someone new who's going to come in with a fresh perspective, some new ideas, bringing a lot of energy to the city every day, a city that he was born and raised in, and the city that he loves, building that consensus and collaboration, and moving Newburyport forward, okay? It's time to pass that baton to the next generation of Newburyporters. You know, I grew up, when Mayor Matthews and Mayor Mullen were coming towards the end of their careers. And Lisa Mead came around at 29 years old and accepted that baton. I think it's time for that baton to be passed on to me. Okay, come vote on November 2nd. We can build the future of Newburyport together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just one quick announcement here. There will be one more meeting of these two mayoral candidates. That's a conversation hosted by Storm Surge and the Daily News from 7 to 8:30 p.m. next Wednesday, October 27th, right here with former City Councilor Chip Weiser leading that conversation. I want to thank the school department. I want to thank Port Media. I want to thank Joe for his great work at the 30, 90, and 2-minute marks. And I do want to echo again what these guys have said about early voting starting Monday morning at 8:30 at the Senior Center And Tuesday, November 2nd, is the general election, and I appreciate all of you coming here tonight and being there on Tuesday, if not before. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.